Happy Thursday, brother. Welcome to
Hey,
the
happy
room.
Thursday, sister.
And guess what? Today is Juneteenth, so I should be saying happy Juneteenth to you.
Yo, happy Juneteenth. I can't believe it's the holiday.
It's a holiday for some. I don't know about you. Did you work today?
Nah, I ain't work today. Well,
Oh,
actually, I am working today. Let me be, more real about it. Yeah, I'm working today. What about you?
yeah, I did a little bit of something, but I'm off after whenever I tape the shows, it's my time for you. And then today I don't have anything behind it because I think it's at least important to acknowledge the significance of this holiday. And there's a lot going on in my community. I don't know about yours.
Tell me about it. What's happening?
Oh man, Baltimore is showing up and showing out. They have a lot of Juneteenth events going on in and around Baltimore that
Oh,
I
wow.
think so there's some informational sessions, some musicians, some directed kind of activism kind of stuff going on. So I'm going to be involved in that later on this evening. So and then over the weekend we have a huge celebration in Harford County that I'm going to attend. So this will be my first real celebration of Juneteenth. I don't think I've ever celebrated it before, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing.
Okay, okay. That's good to hear.
And then for those who don't know us and are joining us for the very, very first time, I am hanging out with my brother Xadean and I'm Syretta. And we're siblings who come together in the Rose Garden each week to help support each other through this crazy, crazy thing called life and provide an opportunity for us to hear from and learn from each other and from other people. Because today we have a very, very special guest. We are going to be learning from somebody who I know you all would like to hear and that we are both excited to hear from. So that's what we do here in the Rose Garden. Drop your information in the chat, encourage us in the chat as we go on. And we love that you all have joined us today. But brother, I don't think we should wait. I think we should.
I don't think so either.
I
We
think. I
without
think.
any
I think the people need. I think we need to bring the people in.
to our radiant, magnificent living legend.
Yeah, yeah. We are.
Also, Fidisi, Tyarii, Kasell. Greetings, my brother. How are you?
Peace and blessings. Greetings. Thank you for welcoming me to the Rose Garden and to a safe space, I was told. And that's something that we all need is to be in an environment where we are safe.
Absolutely.
And part of that starts with our own mind and to be safe and secure there first.
Absolutely. And some folks may not know it, and you're going to touch on this a little bit before, but we're not even just safe in our mind. When we have you in the Rose Garden, we're going to be safe of our body because I heard you got some special skills that encourages that and that you train others about those skills. So tell us a little bit about those skills that you have so that folks know who we have actually in the Rose Garden. My brother didn't call you a legend for no reason.
I appreciate it. And one of the things that I always like to tell people is that because of the notoriety that I have received, that from the magazines and this and that, I am nowhere near as good as they purport because they're trying to sell magazines. So they use words like exciting and thrilling, and they do all of that to help pump everything up. It's just that while I've never been my teacher's best student, I just found out that I was simply the most photogenic. But also the one thing that stands out is that for me, I think about with how I am supposed to sometimes talk about myself. And I can list all the accolades and all of that. But realistically, right now, I'm more interested in what other people say because of the work that I'm doing. And I'm going to let my legacy and everything be based upon everything that I've been doing. So
Well, that's a
I
vast,
understand.
that's a vast, honorable. You have a vast legacy, first of all, and I love your honorable humbleness. But let me just say that also is an international Hall of Fame martial artist, and also he is one of the forefathers of Pan African martial arts. Just personally, in terms of the lives that I've seen him touch, he is a giant. He is a giant in the world that he lives in. When I say a giant, it means that he has a whole ecosystem, a world on his shoulders that is supported by all of the seeds that he's planted. So I feel blessed also that you've graced us with your presence and you can share a little bit of the wisdom that you have. But like you said, your legacy is already, flourishing.
If I can flow with something right now, please, let me tell you that one of the most important parts of my development in making and becoming also is through my parents. So it was the training of not just martial arts that my father taught me when I was 4 years old, but it was also my mother's energy and spirit and her wisdom because she saw something within me because of a ferocity that I had at that young age that my father, I don't believe, saw. He just saw the skill and he saw he was developing. My mother saw that, like, no, he's real serious about this. He needs another kind of training. So we backed off until I got much older. And so then moving into martial arts training, traditional, embracing the art and the culture so much. I had magnificent men who were my heroes. All of my superheroes are Black folks, the real ones. And so these martial arts men helped to guide and mold me with the training from my mother and father that all the success that happens all contributed to following the spirits and the guidance of the ancestors and those people around. So everything that's been based upon me, I've been blessed with, all comes from them. It's all from that.
So I hear it. So
Is that okay?
that was
I'm
beautiful.
sorry.
Did
Yes.
I hear that your father also trained in martial arts?
Yes. However, I need to be very distinctive. My father's martial training was his own and his life growing up in America during the 20s and 30s and being able to survive. And he was in Texas. So he came. So Juneteenth is another significance to me, and that too, because of that is a birthplace for him. And so his lifestyle and his upbringing caused him, forged within him a means of self defense where he learned how to survive in America and in the community that he was living in. And so my father lived a great lifestyle. And so he was a man of character and distinction. And he knew his way around cards and dice and pool sticks. And so uh, he was all of this as I'm talking about will be in my book. And I'm hoping that I'm just trying to tell you that he knew how to defend himself when it mattered the most, when your life was on the line. And so part of that was, some hand training. But my father also had other utensils that he utilized.
It sounds very much like what our communities are experiencing now, because it sounds like what you're saying is folks had to learn to survive and they had to get a self defense mechanism in place. And I think that that's what my brother was sharing, that, you've carried that self defense kind of mindset to the teaching that you do. So tell us a little bit about the teaching that you do in the communities that you serve.
Well, one of the blessed things that I had coming up was martial arts instructors who, and specifically the most impactful instructor in this one segment and category of my life is Nganga Mfundishi Tolona, because he brought me to the other social consciousness of African martial arts, Pan Africanism, and being socially active in the community. The martial arts school provided a safe place for the younger children, teenagers, and young adults to come and congregate, not just for martial arts, but we held dances there so that because the Chicago Heights neighborhood was an impoverished community, it wasn't flourishing, even though the Ford Motor Company was down the way in East Heights. There were bars, but no places where young children could congregate. Am I making sense to you? So we had a
Yeah,
spot
absolutely.
where they could come in and dance in a safe martial arts atmosphere and environment. We held other community events there. Jazz shows and speakers would come. I was a part of the tour that Stokely Carmichael did during the South. So bringing the message of Black Power and the movement. I'm getting excited, you all. You're taking me back. So uh,
Get excited.
mentioning this because it has been about community involvement. So my classes and what I have done has been an offshoot, a continuation of what I was exposed to as that young teenager, that young adult coming up. Okay, I'm sorry. Did I answer the question? Or was there a question, or was I just?
Also one thing I think my sister doesn't know all about your illustrious background, but one of the things that I learned about you was that you were, an actual real fighter before there was UFC, and you were representing the, like kung fu style of fighting, but you were recognized as kung fu's first combat fighter. And you fought people like Benny the Jet. I forget the other guy's name. Is it Little John?
It's okay, Little
Or he
John
ain't even so
Davis. Yeah,
little. Yeah.
no, you got little to me then.
But you got to tell us about those. What you talking about?
Everybody's bigger than me, but I fought everybody. Well, uh, I would let me please finish this last part, so because you just took me in that other direction of fighting. Um, but for you, ma'am, the part about the community involvement and the teaching, as I said, it's been an offshoot of that. So I had to become involved in other community projects, teaching in the elementary schools here in DC. One of my proudest moments that I can claim is that I taught at Howard University for 25 years. But wait a minute. What you didn't teach, the students? Oh, yes, I did. I taught at Howard University's early learning programs. I taught 3, 4, and 5 year olds. And so I'm teaching them from pre-K to kindergarten. And so for those 20 plus years, I have these children who were touched by African martial arts and who got an opportunity to just be a part of a tradition of African culture and learning. And so, that's something that I'm extremely proud of. Working in the prison system was connected to still bringing African culture and the wisdom from that of our heritage. So I think
Well,
I
that's special.
Yeah,
That's
no
special.
doubt.
So you've been a part of the community. You were reaching them in the schools, in the prisons, in the community, wherever we were. You were there.
and because that's going to be a segment later that I'll bring up and I'll talk.
Now you got to take us to the fighting, because even though it sounds like you're very much someone who or maybe you can kind of clarify us, how do you train this tradition that you're talking about, that how does it balance both, I guess, conflict resolution skills and then being able to defensively defend yourself, and I guess in a way that's brutal and can back somebody off of you. So how do you combine this? It seems like there's an intricate art that you bring to this.
That was very nice the way that you expressed it. You've got a lot of that fighter instinct in you with a lot of finesse the way you pull that off. I see what you mean, sir. I got you now. Thank
Well, you already know what she was saying that she
you. Yeah.
can't do publicly.
Okay. Well, one of the things that was important for me coming up in the 60s, of course, late 50s and 60s, was understanding who I was with my parents and the social structure. Self defense is important because it's always about awareness and how okay, I'm an Aquarian, and so my energy and my mind and the airflows, I have thoughts that happen so rapidly and quickly. And so I want to make sure that I get them all in, okay?
You're doing a good job.
Because we have to be aware of self-defense. And so here's something that comes to my mind, and that is how often we've had to, in the importance of Black men, fathers, Black women, mothers, for their children when they have to have the talk to their young male child and the female child as well. And the talk about how they have to be aware of themselves and the people around them. And what happens when the police stop them and all of those things that we have to have the talk with our children. And so self-defense is going to always be on my mind. And so the physical learning of it through my teachers and that awareness of like, okay, you got to fight. I was an experiment in my first teacher's school because I was the first child as a young kid coming into a school. He only taught adults. So when you're teaching a class that is supposed to be about self-defense and brutal, as you mentioned, ma'am, your word, it can be. How do you gear that down for a child
Yeah,
so that you don't create a bully? That's important
right.
as well. And so I had under Grandmaster James A. Jones Jr., my first teacher, he was able to make sure that the classes and the instruction and material were transferred to me. I was able to execute them properly with the kind of strength that a child would have amongst adult men. And those adult men had to balance off their energies toward me as well. But they pushed me. And so
Mm.
I came up under men punching and kicking me hard, not enough to abuse me, but enough to train me so that I would not be scared when somebody else came along. And so it's never been about fear. It's about understanding principles and techniques. So when I have found myself being forced into a fighting situation or a choice of stepping into the ring, it has been about utilizing the knowledge of the skill, but harnessing the ability to do damage. Did I say that in this way?
And you did a beautiful job. So basically, you know how to kick people's butts on purpose and you know when to do it, right? You have the level of discernment.
You know, also a lot of people who are practitioners of the martial arts and science, they talk about self-defense, but I feel like also teaches like real life survival. And just his life itself is a model of, how martial arts at multiple levels is an actual lifestyle for him. It's a walk of life. And I think that, it's interesting because the the art for Oso is taking him to lots of magnificent places. I remember he had a video where he was performing in front of Minister Louis Farrakhan. All of these martial arts tournaments like the Capital Classic and all that stuff. Also, as a co-founder on, and he doesn't really get the flowers and the recognition that I think that he deserves because of his pioneering, trailblazing, leading the way, specifically in the Pan African martial arts realm. Because most of the people respect and they uplift the Chinese, or Asian martial arts, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, or whatever. But because Oso has been, a masterful practitioner of African martial arts, which has a lot to do with, the underlying rhythm and stuff like that. It's been said about him, we talking about the man, first, his upbringing, what got him interested into it and all that. Now I'm about to talk about the myth of him, right? Which is what he could do, as a martial arts. What the challenge is being able to input that into someone else so that they could do it. But his reputation that I've heard is the things he can do, only he can do.
You can't teach folks how to do it. You that special?
That's I don't know for those who are real lovers of the martial arts. We used to like to watch these like kung fu movies on Saturday or whatever. They used to come on the free TV channel. But there was this classic one called the Five Deadly Venoms. You know what I mean? And the Five Deadly Venoms is like the I know it's the snake, the damn I forget which ones they were now, like the
Dragon
centipede,
and
lizard, whatever. But also style. He every time I think about him, he remind me of like the Five Deadly Venoms because he is truly one of a kind. His his ground fighting game is different from what you would see now, what people believe is like ground fighting, which is the jujitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. He is a striker from the ground. His ground and also he is a teacher of other grandmasters. I've seen him, you know, watching, instructing, coaching, other masters as they're perfecting their craft. And he's just pointing out things like, multiple attackers, for example. And he's like, yeah, you're doing that right, but what about this other guy? You got to deal with that. He just put these elements into it. But in terms of fluid movement, I've never seen anything as poetic and graceful as also has been. But you put that into the fact that he was actually putting that to the test, which a lot of martial artists don't do. He was in combat, physical combat, like he said, with people much bigger than him, like before the UFC, with different arts, different styles or whatever he was representing his style that he perfected. And banging, you know, bang with it. So he's a real champion. I mean, like one of his businesses is called Champion Spirit,
Mm.
which I feel like he embodies that personally. And then
What is
you know,
that business, Oso?
you know was really interesting. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you mentioning it, and it is something special for me to tie into, and that is when he mentioned the champion spirit. I talk about my father uh, a lot. I can tell you this, however, that I can't go into anything specific about my father. No, wait. Let me let me explain that right now. There's a reason for that. Because if I tell you a story about my father, I have to tell three. I never tell one story about my father. So that's why when I was talking, I was trying to make sure don't say anything because I'm gonna have to go into detail. Um, but and I'm mentioning that because it was understanding that spirit that my father was able to expose me to. And in doing so, I was able to recognize it in my first teacher's class. And then I was able to recognize it when I went on elsewhere to my other studies. And that being able to recognize that spirit is important because that champion spirit is different than anyone else, entirely different. They're contenders, they're other people that train and do things. Champion is entirely different, entirely different.
Different about the champion spirit than the contender spirit.
The champion goes much further. The champion follows through. The fact that the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, you know who that is. You know who that is. This is somebody who said at 12 years old, he said, I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. How can a 12-year-old think that he's even going to grow up to be 200 and something pounds when you're only 75 pounds at that age then? Right? That, and then to say you're going to be better than everyone else, but to be able to tune into that within him, and then to have that spirit come out and then him do it, that's something that separates. So you can recognize the champion spirit. You can recognize that. And so it's something inside, it's inert, it changes. You know what it is. I'm going to, I'm on.
So I
No doubt.
love that. I love that characteristic because, there's a lot of people talk about manifestation as a form of projecting greatness into your life. It starts with the formulation of the words of your mouth and how you express it. And it also then creates that story map that we follow because we're all following a story map about ourselves. And if it's a positive one, a prolific one, we can actually do wonderful things with it. But not everybody's story map is the same.
No.
And so one of the influences then is having a good teacher. And I keep hearing Xadean describe you as the master's teacher. So I guess when I hear that, that means you a great teacher, right? So what attracts you to those students? And then what is it that you want them to take away from your experience, interaction with them?
I'm doing my best to live the words that have been passed down from the ancient wisdom of our ancestors, whether it be those that have written it in stone in the Meta Netra on the walls in the pyramids in ancient Egypt, or through the structure of culture and dance and cloth and the wisdom that our ancestors passed, no matter where they are. And all of those words and all the stuff that I've been listening and reading since I was a young one up. Every day, what I've been doing my best to actually do is to say that, may the words that I speak are the truth. May the words that I say be of benefit to others. And may the words that I speak be not ones delivered with intentional harm of maliciousness. So that's a lot for me to try to do every day and to try to remind myself.
Well,
Because
also,
I'm sorry, no, no,
oh,
no,
you go ahead. I didn't mean to step
yeah,
on you.
no, because I don't want to, I want to make sure that I cover this part because I believe in us. I believe in our ancestors, but I also believe that right now we are the ones that we have been waiting for. And I believe we got all the information that's already been passed on. So now it's a question of doing it. And so I'm trying to make sure that my actions are matching and balancing out. I'm not sure if I've gotten disjointed what I'm saying. How about, because I told you my
But it
thoughts,
connects.
you know.
It connects also. I understand exactly what you're saying.
So, so,
Because you show it in your life also.
so when
You
you're
live it
asking
out,
me
man.
about teaching, when you're saying, am I teaching? Part of me is saying, I'm teaching if you all are listening. I'm teaching if you're paying attention.
Hear you.
Because my dog, I have the Akita, Jasmine, she talks, you know, she speaks. And my wife can tell you, my wife and I would tell, she'd tell you, we both heard her talk.
Okay. Tell me more.
Okay. But one of the things that I found out was that, and my wife and I agreed that she can talk. She just chooses not to use words all the time. This dog is communicating, and we know exactly what every animal wants if we're paying attention. Muhammad Ali had students. His students were all over the world. He didn't have a classroom where he telling people to jab and to turn and twist and do that. He didn't do that, but he demonstrated it every day. He taught. And so I'm just looking at, the things that I have learned from watching some of the greatest people on earth, from, my mother and father to, as we even mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned my wife was a great teacher. So I'm hoping that my classes, and certain lessons are being transmitted correctly so that it can be transferred or however way it goes. Come on, use the technology.
That's right. I get it. Brother, what did you want us to know about Oso? You said Oso is living it. So living what
Well, I
is
say also lives it out, right? Because you know how I would say, I'm glad he brought up Muhammad Ali, right? Because I feel like also and people like Muhammad Ali, they are true champions and they embody a champion spirit in the sense that they also do not compromise, their internal integrity.
Mhm,
So some people have sold out for the commercial aspect and you know, financial gain for certain things. And then in doing that, they'll step on other people's toes and feet to do so, right? But also doesn't do that. And in fact, right now, another one of his businesses is Elite Security Services. And from what I perceive of that entity also actually has students, has employed students of his. I mean, in the neighborhood of a couple to a few hundred, that he's, uh, engaged into securing, community hospitals in our neighborhoods
mhm,
and doing it in a way to where this is becoming, a precedent. It's kind of a one of its kind type of program.
mhm.
And I think the seed behind that, from what I heard, everything is a story. Is that in Oso's actions? You know how I've heard in one of the centers where Oso teaches that people are watching you even when you don't think they are. So they learning by what you do and what you don't do. But at the end of the day, what I see also is that, all of the seeds that he's planted, like, like I said, he teaches the art of survival for real. But that when people have used it and it has actually preserved their lives, that they come back and give also homage and credit for that. Right. But I see how also's the fruit of his labor, like all of his efforts benefits the people around him.
Mm.
So he uplifts the folks around him.
That's a beautiful
And I
thing to hear.
And I think that, yeah, like, he
Yes,
reminds me of when Ali decided not to go to Vietnam and fight other melanated people, where he felt like his fight was his. And I seen that happen in Oso's lives in many ways. And, he has this thing I heard him say before where it was, if you can look up, you can get up,
that's right.
And honestly, I think about that all the time because that, like he said, he's conscious of the things that he says, but that thing can be applied in many different ways, right? So I look at myself and I examine where I'm at, like you said, like in the realm of the business world, right? And then I look and I say, well, there's people above me, right?
That's
So
right.
I hear Oso's words, well, if you can look up, you can get up, right? So I say, if I can look up and know that there's somebody above me, that I can rise to that level
That's
then.
right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I have that drive to do it.
Right.
Yes, you
I
do.
appreciate
You
that.
do.
I appreciate that.
You know what's really, oh boy, to I'm trying to follow it because Elite is such a magnificent and wonderful organization, company. But it came about, the story of Elite, ma'am, came about because of my student who I taught in 1985. And so here he is now in 2015 when, I mean, there's so much that goes to this, but in 2015 he said, like, listen, can you do this? Can you teach a class and teach this one class? And so at that point he was like, absolutely, but I needed to teach a class. I needed another student. And my other student was Malenga Youssef. And so we're talking, I mean, there are things I can do by myself, but but everything tastes better and works better when you got somebody with you, that you can
Right.
come together because we're stronger together, you know?
Right.
100%.
That's our community.
So Malanga comes and we do this class together that just blew the entire hospital away. That just at this particular point, the nursing staff, the doctors, the other security administrative people are going like, what is this? And it was coming together of what we understood of how to serve our people without hurting our people.
So that's
And,
important to you that they're
and so because of that, we came back and he came back and said, can you put together something else that can expand on this? And so we went from 18 people to 250 people and to cover not just one hospital, but, 10 hospitals. And so it's
that's excellent.
because of the dedication, the understanding of the core principles of the company, which are discipline, courtesy, respect, and care. And because of that, Malanga Youssef and Shifu Matthew Stanback were building the foundation of everything that our mission and values are for. And all of it is based upon the martial arts principles, and all of it is based upon serving the community.
That's wonderful. So I love hearing your stories, and today you've nourished us for so many. But one of the more deeper, more maybe personal stories I'd like to hear about is this wonderful woman of yours. Now, is she in the martial arts tradition as well? And is she a part of some of these lessons? What lessons has she taught you?
I'm going to quote her. She said, "I'm your best student." And I said, why are you saying that after you are talking about how much you like this John Wick movie and The Equalizer with Robert McCall, and the way he was just, when before she didn't look at movies like that. And so her lessons have been in patience as well. Her lessons have been in supreme positivity. She looks for and will find something good. And keeping hope alive, it resides within her. She manifests hope. And so, I like to see that part and so that's one thing I enjoy. But the patience is something that's great. And so I will sit perched right beside her and looking down.
You know what? I don't think this is a better time to transition. Thank you so much for your honesty and candor. We got that time goes by so fast. We've been in the Rose Garden now 45 minutes. So we always play a game right before we end our show, just so that folks can get to know you better. And it also tests my brother and I's ability to work together. So today, brother, we on the same team. So we get to work together. So Brother Malinga, this is
Also,
so
Fidisi,
sorry. I lost where I was. Oh, yeah, you're in their space.
salute to them.
So, Brother Oso, it's called Two Truths and a Lie. You have to tell us two truths and one lie. Then, brother, we get to work together to figure it out. And then you get to tell us the stories behind what you shared and see if we can pick out the truth or the lies and the lies. So let's go. So you got to tell us two truths and one lie, and then brother and I gonna work together, and then you're gonna tell us the stories behind what you shared. Yeah. So yeah. Something has to be a fib. You have to be a fib. I know that is against your principles. We heard about your principle set. That means something to you. This is hard. This is hard.
Well, this is easy. The last one is the lie. The last one's the lie.
Together, we did you
You know, I feel like I got the cheat cards on it, so I make life easy on you,
thank you
sister.
so much. Thank you.
Yeah, because I know my brother.
Go ahead.
Well, I told you the last one is a lie.
Bless
because
the
because you said he was Black Jesus, right?
I
That's what you refer to him as.
I mean, if you
And, you know
pictures he sent for his promo, he's standing at the gate, and the heavens are opening up. I thought, okay, we have Black Jesus.
well, if he's Black Jesus, he cannot tell a lie.
Cannot
No, but I know my brother is he's a practitioner, skilled and a legitimate, if you know what that is. And
how to share it with us.
so I think that was the first thing he said. He said he's a professional magician. But I seen his work in that area.
Okay.
And then the second one, he said he was a professional.
And it was perfect timing.
Yeah, it's perfect timing.
So
He
the
said he said he was a professional dancer too.
and
And
we
I actually
that
seen him performing that, like, African dance and all of that.
okay, okay.
So I knew the last one
Well, he also
had to be the
had a gift
shab.
for us because he said that a part of his principle he endeavors every day, which I think that's a gift to us all. Like we can all work on that and say that I endeavor to share words with others that are true. And I
No
love
doubt.
I love the honesty behind how difficult that can be on an everyday basis because I think about things like, how do we tell people the hard things. And people are really struggling with some very hard things. Like when someone's harmful, doing something harmful to you, saying something harmful, discriminating against you, being racially biased. How do we confront that? And I think too few of us have the skills. And I'm not even going to say all of us have, even the ones who are trained in conflict resolution. We don't always have the skill because things can be personally inciting to us. But making sure that you wake up every day with a principle set that guide your actions is just so much more meaningful. And I don't think that that's taught. I don't think people understand that that's one way to make sure that you are acting in a way that you can control. You can always control how you're going to be by setting the intention every day. So I'm so appreciative that he shared that with us that, as an intention, that doesn't mean he gets it right 100% of the time because he's human, but as an intention, I'm going to set the I'm going to communicate truthfully with others and let that be the experience they have with me. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate you coming into the Rose Garden. You got to tell us about the significance of the hat before you go.
Yeah, that's our conclusion. Are we right?
You did.
Are we accurate?
No, you can talk about that. We
Yeah, you can talk about
believe
it.
you were a dancer. And we believe you were a magician.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Nah, this is the first time.
And this is challenging my Black Jesus perspective of you. It was pointing to the sky. You with that beautiful gold.
No doubt.
Uh, yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Absolutely. What a beautiful, beautiful gift to leave with people. I appreciate that. Brother, anything that you'd like to say before we break?
Yeah, I would love for Oso to I think I heard him say that he has a book that either is coming or has been released. I'd like to have him speak on that, and then also the where he can be found, where people can see him, and how they can get some of his wisdom and skill passed on. So Oso, can you close us out?
Armor too.
Hey, hey, we accept tips. Tips in the form of checks, ACH, cash. No doubt.
No doubt. Well, we thank you. You were supposed to be in the Rose Garden on this day at this time. We appreciate all the gifts that you give us all the time when we come together. It's been many, many years since I've actually seen you, even though we're in boxes live and in person, but it's always my gift and my pleasure. Your spirit is for those who haven't been in the room with you, they may not know what you mean by that spirit. I jokingly call you Black Jesus, but it isn't there's a way that you emit positivity that makes people both curious and then also wanting to be around you more. So I appreciate that. And that's what I hope everybody felt today. Brother, it's always my pleasure to meet you in the Rose Garden. I don't know what I would do without you. And I can't wait to see everybody here and back next week at the same time, same place, same bat channel.
Indeed. Salute to everyone out there.
Bye for now.
All right, bye for now.